right. So Gurneet, the man of the hour with a handful of promoting owners. So this I'm talking to these rookie promoting owners last week. Some of them you might know, some of them you might not know as you take a look around this Zoom call. But we were just talking about you and Brennan in particular and how you guys have very different approaches to recruiting. And I know I talked to you about this last year at NatCon. I'm like, I'd like to host a call with Gurneet on one side representing the Republican Party, and then Brennan on the other side representing the other Republican Party. I'm just kidding about that stuff, but like just kind of a debate because you guys have two very different approaches. Um, and so I don't know. So I've been wanting to do that. Obviously, I haven't pulled the trigger on that yet. But this call is kind of like, okay, well, let's hear the one side right off the bat. Like, what exactly is working for you? And maybe you can start off with just some details of like how many reps do you have? How many recruiters do you have? Like what's going on? Because I keep rattling off things like, yeah, Gurneet is averaging about 20 second round interviews per day. Now, that might be old data that I'm sharing. So why don't you just kind of bring us up to speed with some data and then we're going to start firing away with some questions.
Yeah, so so the way I'm gonna kind of explain the business is a little bit more old school, and maybe Jamie can relate to it a little bit more. Can you guys hear me properly though? Am I good? Cool, awesome. Yeah, so my way of doing business is a little bit old school because I run a totally opportunity driven business, and my philosophy is that the more my leaders can grow, the more they're stimulated in doing sales, right? I mean, if they feel they come into the office and they feel like they have an opportunity and constant opportunity, not just opportunity based on production. It's like, all right, are they running meetings? Are they doing interviews? Are they having critical conversations? Are they shadowing? Are they watching everything that I'm doing that an owner eventually needs to do? And I can incentivize them by their behavior. It's a win-win situation. So I've kind of changed into that almost 2 years ago. And right now, just to give you guys some up-to-date stats, my head count right now is 72 reps. Total head count in the office right now. I have two other owners with me right now. We are around 125 reps in the office right now. Um, we have total of six recruiters in the building right now. Three work specifically for me. We're booking close to 35 seconds a day. We get around 15 to 20 show a day. Um, we're aggressively getting around as three owners combined, we're getting around 18 to 25 new starts a week. So there's this constant factory that's being built and people are seeing. So if I look at it, I made this change 2 years ago. And since last year, March, I've just got approved for my two other deals. So I've promoted out 7 deals in the organization since last year, March. And my biggest funnel, my biggest weapon is our recruiting. It's our process of development, and it's the way we incentivize our reps. Right. So I'll give you guys an example. It's a simple example. And I share this on stage. I learned this from Cooper Brown when he was a rookie rep. I'm like, hey, Cooper, man, what are you doing that's making you so well? Cooper's like, well, I'm like, ask him I ask questions to everybody. I ask the stupidest questions, the simplest questions, because your answers are there normally. Your answer is not in the complicated stuff. Your answer is, what is the simple thing that he's doing that I can replicate? Right. And I asked him, hey, man, like, so what were you doing that's so good? He's like, well, Gurneet, I have 3 time slots for interviews daily. And every time slot, the top person on trend gets an interview. So I'm like, your top guy gets around 15 second rounds a week. He's like, yeah, my top 3, 4 people get around 15 second rounds a week. So I was like, okay. And that clicked for me. And at that time, I wasn't doing that. I was like, you know what? Let me take that. Let me go apply that change. Well, that change ended up turning really significant for my business and my organization. And obviously, we started to put stipulations into that change where what ends up happening now is like someone shows up a minute late, doesn't get an interview for a week. Someone shows up late to the store, doesn't get an interview for a week. Someone doesn't show up to team night, doesn't get an interview for a week. There's a lot of stipulations where just your sales guys, your sales guys are good, but they're not normally your biggest team builders, or normally not your best guys to build with. So what ends up happening, those guys end up not doing the things that you need to, so they fall back, and your middle tier guy that's making $1,000, between $1,000 and like $1,500 right now, those are your guys that a lot of times they end up quitting because they feel like they don't get no opportunity. Well, those guys now move up the trend because they do show up on time. They do come to team nights. They do ask the certain things that they need to. They start building a team. So now your middle TPB players in sales eventually come up with the biggest teams because they end up feeling stimulated that there's more opportunity for them. And that's been kind of our role. There's three leadership groups I have in my office. There's the leadership group, then there's my core, and then there's my assistant managers. I have a core group of around 30 people, where they all have more than two people in their team. They have to consistently do more than $1,200 in production. But those are the guys, those 30 people are running meetings. I have around 30 people that can run 10 different opportunity meetings on situational leadership, critical conversations. All we talk about with that core group is situational leadership, emotional intelligence, critical conversations, training, interviewing, the recruiting funnel, all the major things that you need to develop to be a good owner. And those guys run it. And what used to be back in the days, a lot of times I used to do everything and I wasn't able to delegate responsibility. So that's kind of been our structure since we've kind of shifted towards that, Jamie.
So Gurneet, a lot of time back. So new starts, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you say 18 to 25 new starts per week?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. 18 to
Well,
20.
it's three offices combined. So it's three offices combined. Remember that. So it's three offices around eight. Yeah. So yes.
And you know, on a monthly basis, let's just say the number's 20. You have 20 new starts per week, 80 for the month. How many of those guys stick?
I would say, I mean, the thing I would say we have a really, I was in our office around 40%, right? Around 50% do stick around. And that's what I go by. I run my business through the 50% ratio, even in recruiting, even in anything that I do. I was like, all right, if I land this many, I'm able to keep 50%, and then 50% of those I'll turn into leaders. And that's what's been happening. That's why it's been so quick. And a lot of times, and here's you play devil's advocate, like, well, Gurneet, like we're on retail, you got to pay, you got to pay minimum wage, and there's higher payroll. Well, guys, look, I'm in New Jersey. My minimum wage is $16 an hour. So yeah, I mean, we can play that you can be not scared, but you just have to play offense with your deal. And what I've learned is that as long as you have good metrics in place, and as long as your hands are on the fish with your people, you can make decisions quick. So yeah, there's a lot of times we do have to let go of people fast because there's certain amount of stores and certain amount of things we can do. But for the most part, we really work well with the 50% ratio. And we constantly have leaders constantly being promoted every single week. Right now, our new start to leadership ratio it takes them about a week, like about a week and a few days, they're getting into leadership. And then once they get into leadership, it's not like we're like, all right, you got to give us 4 more weeks of consistency before we can have you do anything. No, you become a leader. All right, but look, here we go. For the next week, you stay consistent. I'm gonna have you shadow interviews this week because you got into leadership. Next week, you stay consistent. You're gonna be ready for one. So that new guy that's coming in this third week, fourth week, you're already giving him an interview and he feels excited. He's like, all right, like I'm starting to build, I'm starting to do something, rather than us keeping people for 2, 3 months and then they're burnt out, because then you're stimulating people's behavior based on just sales numbers and not what our business is spoken about normally. So yeah.
So just to keep playing some math here. So let's just say it's 50% are sticking around, 50% move on. Well, if 40 people a month are moving on, multiplied by 12 is 480. So you have 480 really X reps over the course of the year. that might have lasted 3 days, might have lasted 2 weeks, but they're out.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of exposure potentially to like online gripes. And so like I think that's what I've seen over the years, Gurneet, and again, you hit the nail on the head. I'm an old school guy. I came from the world of, you know, mass recruiting, and I've just heard, really starting with Sebastian, and then it sort of trickled into a lot of other people, like, well, hey, that whole funnel of recruiting, it kind of creates some problems with, again, just online exposure. And I don't have to change my company name every year. You know, I want to brand my business. And so a lot of people have intentionally slowed their recruiting down a little bit. And maybe it's become a problem. Again, I've talked to Grant about it, and Grant's kind of subscribing to, like, you know what, I need to open this up here. I need more of that old school mentality. But my question to you with that said is, I mean, I know you got 3 recruiters dedicated to you. You probably have a bomb, but how do you handle, like, is negative press a real challenge for you? And if so, how do you deal with it?
I mean, the funny part is you can't get away with negative press right now, especially in our business. I mean, if Reddit has become this huge thing now, and it's reviews, and people are complaining that Gurneet, like I get calls every day, Gurneet, like, what are you doing about Reddit? This and that. I'm like, look, guys, my Reddit is bad too, and I haven't changed my name. I think what people need to understand is that you have to teach your leaders how to attract quality individual. And then when they come into your office, they got to feel that it's a professional environment, right? Like that's one of my biggest things in the office. It's talking a lot about character and how to present yourself. What ends up happening a lot of times we go to offices, and don't get me wrong, it's all good and great because obviously we're a sales company, we create energy, we create a lot of these things where like we play games, we do this, and our language sometimes is different. And a new guy walking in, a sharp new guy coming into your office, and the first thing he listens to is a curse word, or first thing he listens to is something really unprofessional. This happens a lot in our industry. And I think there's a lot of coaching and there's a lot of checks and balances. So, for example, before anyone even walks into my office, there's a 2 hour orientation done, which was completely by me and my HR mainly, but like she's talking about our culture, our professionalism, the way we do things. She explains things in person. We make the leader come into the office, introduce themselves. They already feel comfortable. Even if there's an exit, let's say we have to let go of somebody, we do it in the most respectful, professional manner that we can. So we tell them, hey, look, if you ever need a reference, you ever need any help, we try to be the best in class. And that's what we can control. I can't control what someone else thinks of me, but what I can control is what happens in my office and what my leaders talk about and how we talk about things. Like a lot of nowadays, you're in an office, you're in a world right now where you speak the wrong word in the office and someone records you and puts you on the internet, you're screwed, right? It could be a rep, it could be us, it could be anybody. But if we don't talk about these things consistently, like the level of intellect, and you're like, Gurney, like, are we teaching sales or are we teaching this? I'm like, I get it, but sales are driven through those conversations because people feel that they're personally growing. They're gonna want to be there every day. They understand what you're trying to build. And I constantly talk about the type of leader you need to be to run a strong business, right? That we always talk about the sales office versus the opportunity office and emotional intelligence. So a lot of this conversation, and then what I do in my back end, I have to do my due diligence. As an owner, I know I have time, at least an hour or 2 hours a week, to sit on my laptop and check my branding. I exactly know, like I can go research for half hour. You should, I know every competitor in my market. I know I have followed trends a lot on my Instagram where my guys are on it. They're posting stuff consistently. If I focus on the content and someone goes into my Instagram and sees all these things and someone and we can control that, but I cannot control if someone goes and controls a negative review. What I can do is at least leave feedback and say, hey, thank you. We'll work on it. Right. So I try to control whatever I can control in my environment. But as an owner, you have to do your due diligence. You have to know what's happening in your branding because branding is everything right now. You need to know your Glassdoor. You need to know if you have bad Indeed reviews. You need to know what your Google reviews say. You need to kind of just check up just to hear, and it can help you. It can help you like, oh, snap, like maybe our orientation is bad, maybe our onboarding is bad, oh, maybe we didn't do this properly. It can help you fix it. So, I mean, I thought about it too. I mean, this happened to me recently where I thought about it like, hey, should I change up the branding or not? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get aggressive with what I can control. And it didn't really make a difference to us. We're still getting the results that we need to. So yeah.
Got it. All your recruiters work in your building, like remote? Are you doing remote stuff at all?
I have one main recruiter. I have two, well, we have four recruiters in the office and we have two remote recruiters. So yeah.
And is Indeed kind of your main play?
Yeah. Indeed and LinkedIn. We're very aggressive on Indeed, and I'm very aggressive on LinkedIn because I feel if you can hire a LinkedIn candidate, you have a, not that they're sharper, it's just that you're attracting a sharper individual that kind of has done some research on you. And if you can get them in, you know, our business is about how to attract, because a top person is easy to coach. That's the way I look at it, right? Like in the last year, I had two guys that got promoted within a year because they were just super sharp athletes, came in, just looking, it's just they're just easier to coach. So you got to constantly talk about, all right, how do we attract a better individual? And a lot of times my leaders are doing these interviews, right? And I still do second rounds, but I do a lot of third rounds. If someone's really sharp, I do a third round in person. They come meet me. I show them the office. I show them, and like, even if you don't have the office, the way you represent yourself will attract them. And that's the way I feel. Even if I had a small office right now in a rinky dinky place, I promise you, the way I'll talk about what I do and my passion, the people, they'll feel it. And I think that, that's what we've been doing.
And do you have to play any games at all with Indeed? Like, have they kicked you off?
Yeah, they kick me off, and then I gotta get back. Then they use a third party company to get back on. It's just it's constant, but look, there's database, right? There's Indeed and there's LinkedIn. My mentality with the recruiters is the same thing as I tell the reps in the store. If there's names and there's candidates, we got to call them, right? And that's my thing, is to always create resources for those recruiters to constantly dial, because that's the name of the game. And sometimes, yeah, look, do they get annoyed sometimes with the results? Yeah, we all do. But as long as I'm able to provide them a resource and we're aggressive with it in our market, yeah, I mean, I can't be negged about some things that I can't control, but I know that, all right, if that's not working, let's get to this. So yeah.
Yeah. And do you mind me asking how much you're spending on your combination of LinkedIn and Indeed on a weekly basis to get
Yeah,
that?
it's around $1,000 a week.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
So $1,000 a week between three or five, six recruiters, like $1,000
Oh, no,
total.
no, 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 no. No, no, no. You're talking about just ads?
Well, database at like just your recruiting budget less your recruiter costs,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
it's like $1,000.
$1,000 per week.
Yeah. And you can almost you can split that amongst, if you have some guys in the office, you can split that with. Yeah.
Well, how do you get so much volume off only $1,000? I
Well,
was
I also
we
think
heard something like $4 or $5,000.
well, I don't know. Well, I also think I mean, I don't think it's to be fair, but I'm in New Jersey. I think there's a big pool here in the tri-state area. It's Jersey, New York, Connecticut. So I have a big pool to really play with. So I think we can really make it work. Um, but if I had probably somewhere else, I don't know, maybe, yeah, maybe I had to spend it. But for the now, I mean, a lot of times it's funny. So if there's a guy named, so Brian Ward is in my forum group. And Brian Ward, one time I'm just watching and I'm like, dude, how are you getting so many names? And he does this Indeed by himself.
Hmm.
And he was spending dirt money. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Like, he was spending so less. And I just sat there. I'm like, hey, can you do me a favor? I have an hour break right now of doing nothing. Can you just show me how everything works? Right. And he ended up showing me the way things work, blah, 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 blah. And I hired an outside recruiter. I was like, look, I was like, I don't know what money you guys are charging me because I used to get charged an arm and leg for Indeed. And I'm like, this is what I know. And I'm like, this is what this guy's taught me. And maybe I can go do this myself, or you guys help me out here with a really good deal or something that can really help us pull these candidates and that's what I did. But $1,000, Jamie, it should help you. Like that's like if you put the right amount of ads on Indeed, you should get a good amount of names. But my thing is I don't do prelims. So mine are straight to seconds. So my prelims are happening on the phone basically. So my recruiters have been trained to do the prelim interviews on the phone and then so we just go straight to seconds basically. So maybe that might be the big difference. That's the only like the old school stuff that I didn't really carry with myself and the Zoom because we're in that era now. So but yeah, but all my interviews are done through Zoom also, so you guys know.
But your second interviews are done face to face or on Zoom?
No, all Zoom, second Zoom.
Oh, seconds
Thirds
on.
on the phone, third rounds are on the phone unless they're really sharp, they come in person.
Hmm. So the first time they come into your office, they're hired.
No. If sometimes if the person's really sharp on a third round interview, my HR knows that all right, this person's really sharp. I would like to come in and have him talk to you, and maybe you can lock him in. And that's what happened. I recently just hired an investment banker that was working in Manhattan, making over $175,000 a year. And we came in, we spoke. He came in 4 times in my office to talk to me.
Hmm.
And eventually, but if that would have never happened, if she didn't think that it was the right thing to do to have him come into the office and have him speak to me. So I would have probably lost a sharp. And I don't know. We'll see how he turns out, but it seems sharp. So yeah.
But the majority of people, they come in for the first time once they're hired.
Correct. Yes. Majority of them. Yep.
All right. It's a lot of detail. I'm gonna flip this over to you guys now, but you've given me a good picture of what that office looks like.
Yeah.
I got a question on the prelims. So like when you have someone new shadowing, let's say like their second week they shadow, they could potentially do a preliminary interview in their third, fourth week maybe. Um, I found in the past when I was trying to teach leaders how to interview, they were like answering questions that I didn't really feel confident that they knew how to answer, like pay. I'm curious what kind of stuff that you do have them cover and what you don't have them cover, especially if they're new or if you put any kind of guardrails on that.
Yeah. If there's someone new, they shadow a really top leader on interviews that's been like either the AMs or one of the core leaders that have been doing the interviews. So, and they get a script with it and they practice and we make them shadow a few times because the second round, like for example, I had a really sharp guy that started interviewing today. He's been in my office for 3 weeks, got into leadership the first week, stayed consistent, shadowed the top guy for the second week, and today was his first day. And it happened to be we had some really sharp candidates. I happened to hop on Zoom. And I was like, damn, this is his first time doing an interview. I was like, should I take the gamble of giving this guy a Zoom interview? Now, this guy is super excited. He's already hopped on. I made the mistake by not really, my HR and myself, this morning we had a lot of stuff hopping on. She didn't really get a chance to look at the resumes and the people that were confirmed and hopping on, but he hopped on and he was on for an interview. And we're like, all right, you know what? This guy's excited. I can't ruin that excitement. I'm gonna take the he seems ready. He was super professional. He came prepared like all night. Like he was texting me last night that hey, I'm number 3 on trend. He worked so hard to be number 3 on trend. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna get an interview. And this is his fourth week now. So he hopped on and he ended up doing the sharp guy interview. And it happened to be he hired him. We just recently, like an hour ago, she did the third round interview and she ended up hiring the guy. Now, there's times you're taking that gamble, but they've we aggressively teach them when they shadow, and it's the leader's responsibility to make sure that, so my HR and my leader, before they do the interview, that whole week, they test them on it. They're like, hey, what do you know? Can we see? They come in the mornings early. My leaders come in the office at 9 o'clock. So any brand new leader that's coming around that time is sitting down with somebody and just practicing second round interviews. That happens already right away. There's no leader in my office that comes at 9 o'clock is just hanging around. Like there's always something happening and something being taught. Right. So their brain is working and there's just this constant pour of knowledge. And like, it might be too much sometimes. I get it, but I got to make sure the stimulation, they feel the growth, because if they feel the growth, then I'm not BSing what I'm saying. You understand what I'm saying? So they go over everything. And 9 out of 10 times, even when the senior leaders do the second round interview, Grant, sometimes they can't even explain the pay right? So either myself or my HR is doing the third round interviews and we have to kind of go over it again. But I teach them how to emotionally connect. One of the best things I've done. So Gary, during COVID, and I remember this, did a second round workshop with Julia Zamuda. And Julia Zamuda was a assistant manager at that time, and that video is recorded. So every time there's a new leader that comes into my office, they watch that video. And they talk about how Gary connects with people. So we talk about harp on that. I'm like, hey, look, focus on this aspect of the interview. So like a lot of my stuff, Grant, is just I've just taken from people and I've learned and I just pass it on. I pass it on. So, yeah.
Follow up was then, do you have a lot of this written, like, because I'm sure there's a lot of things in the structure that maybe we will make up in our head how you said it afterwards. Do you have any, like, how much of this do you have, like, written down system wise that we might?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have a written down script. Yes, we do, which I can send over to anybody in this on this call. No problem.
Yeah, because I think that, and I don't want to dominate the call for these guys, but I'm like, okay, I don't know, what X amount of people want to get to a spot where I'm doing 20 booked per day. I can't do that. So it's like the level of the delegation is teaching and training people to do these interviews. So I'm just kind of curious on, like, how much of this can we borrow from that you already helped figure us out? I guess
Yeah, I mean, look, if someone asked me, if someone asked me, Gurneet, if you had 5, 6 people in your office right now and just you, I would run the system the exact same way. My goal is for me to be replicatable. So that's what I did on retail 2 years ago when I got in. There was only 5 reps and me. And we made a commitment like, hey, us 5 are going to hit standards. Everyone's going to get interviews based on production and behavior patterns. If you're late, you're not going to get an interview. If you do this, you're not going to get an interview. And at that time, obviously, my recruiting was small. We, as the office grew, I increased the numbers, but those standards are set when I'm a small office because it's easier to change. Right. I mean, it's easier to develop those habits right from the get-go, but like we had this consistent habit and it was led by me. So we did a new start dinner that started at that time ago. We continue it till now, and the leaders do it now because there's so many new starts. Every Thursday night, there's a new start dinner that's being conducted by one of the assistant managers, and there's 2, 3 leaders that are shadowing. There's nothing in my office that's done that's being alone, ever. There's no core leader that's being just like sitting there and listening to a sales workshop. Because what ends up happening, if that's all they listen to, they're never going to grow. It's not going to motivate them. That's why your sales performance are so inconsistent. And if people don't see promotions in offices, then our business looks fugazi. Now, obviously, some offices are used to not promoting somebody out 2, 3 years in. My philosophy is you're in my business for 2 years. You should either get promoted or you should be fired. It's the way I look at it. Unless like there's some exception. It's not that hard to build people up if you have the right process of development that's happening in the office. So yeah, I mean there's and Grant, to be honest with you, I was a control freak. I had to let go. And when I start to let go and start to delegating responsibility, I wasn't afraid. And now my office does well when I'm not around all the time. They exceed numbers all the time. So yeah.
Gurneet, you said your three buckets was process and development, recruiting. The third was opportunity.
Correct. So there's two opportunity meetings run in my office every single week, every Monday, every Friday, right? Every Tuesday. Are all you guys on retail?
No. And we got all, I mean, even with this small group, we have retail, B2B and res.
Yeah, so a lot of my work gets done. So on retail, I'm on retail now full time. I was on B2B also for 3 years. And a lot of my work gets done for on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, which is an off day for us for retail. I've created a culture where around, if we have 135 people in the office, there's like around 40 to 50 people every Tuesday and Wednesday just come to the office on their day off and just hang out. And we conduct so many one-on-ones from 10 to 5. It's not like we're doing some crazy schedule. We're just in the office and every conversation is impactful. Now you're like, all right, Gurneet, if I'm on res and I'm on B2B, how I'm doing it? Well, when I was on B2B and I was running a top office, after 5 o'clock, there's not much to do. So after 5 o'clock, I would take a few leaders and a couple of guys and I would go spend time with them. And you're like, Grenade, well, if I have a family, how can I do that? Same, I would set up a schedule, right? You can on B2B, you can meet someone at 5:30, finish up by 7, you can still get home. But a lot of our development in the office happens through one-on-ones. And right now you have Zoom where you can utilize Zoom. So if someone like we just had owners in our office last week and they were like shocked at what's happening on Tuesdays and Wednesdays in our office. And it's not that and I'm like, and the first thing that I thought of was like, Grenade, is this replicatable? Yeah, it is. Because I asked myself, what is the owner really doing after 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the office? That's the question I always ask myself. Unless I'm running some serious big organization, and even if I'm running a big organization, what am I really doing? Can I utilize my time from 12 to 2, 3, 4 o'clock a little bit more better? Can I go visit stores? Can I go grab a lunch with somebody? Like we can do all these little things so much that can make such an impact because you're one dinner, one conversation away, one lunch away from really growing someone in your business. And that's how I grew. Those little things, those like 20, 30-minute. I used to go to the field, meet someone for lunch for 30 minutes and talk to him about what's his next step when I was a small office. And that would help. He would come and you would see the second half of the day, he would do well in the field. So like those little things have just really, really helped me, Gabriel. So I would ask myself, what am I really doing and what kind of resource I am to my people? I'm not saying to be available because I'm not available all the time also, but I'm saying at the content am I providing? Like if you would walk into your office, is the content makes someone feel that they're going to grow and in the most genuine way?
What things do you focus on when it comes to helping people grow?
Um, well, obviously, you can go in many ways, but so my thing is, and I've really, really shown a lot of my leaders on how to do this. You got to figure out the relationship aspect with your people, that trust. The number one way I've built this is by trust and my integrity. And when I say something, I come through and they meet me halfway, right? So when I tell you when I do those one-on-ones are very much in depth, especially let's say there's a new start in my office. He gets a one on if it's someone's we look at the parameters. In the first 3 days, they do really well. They get to sit down with me in the office and I talk to them for a half hour about everything, their life, their the way they get to know them, their situation, where they've coming from. And I really try to harp on what can drive them, right? You got to figure that out. I try to figure that out. And sometimes they don't know. Sometimes a young guy doesn't know what drives them. But you got to kind of paint the picture of the life that they can build. And you keep asking them those questions and you're teaching those leaders how to do that. Number two, a lot of my meetings are developmental meetings. They're based on like what a person can become and how to be a leader and how to treat people with respect and character and integrity and then number three, obviously, how the business can change someone's life through our opportunity meetings. And I talk about perspective, a life a lot. I run the John Wiggins meetings. I copy Jamie Hepp's videos, and like I do all of that. Now, double-edged sword, Ken Lear came to my house and Ken's like, Gurneet, like you don't talk anything about the campaign. You talk about 15% of it. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm like, that's something I got to work on. You're right. Like, I got to talk more about the campaign and a little bit more about the numbers and stuff like that. So we started, it was 80% opportunity, 20% sales. After me, Ken came to my office, it's become 70, 65, 70% opportunity and 35% sales. So I've kind of mixed it in. But Gabriel, I've driven the behavior through a lot of those perspective why conversations. And and we just constantly talk about that in our office.
Love it.
It's nothing crazy. Like if you guys come to my office, like Gurney, what's the magic sauce? I'm like, bro, there's no anyone that's come to my I'm like, look, there's no magic sauce. It's just that we're very intentful in what we teach, our professionalism, the way we talk, the respect, the way we respect the opportunity. I think those little things, the culture, like on Monday night, we did a team night and the visitors that were coming and they walked into a team night, like the typical one of the offices and around us go to a team night. Everybody's drinking, joking around, having fun, which is fine, which is what a team night's supposed to be. They walked into the team night, they saw 70 people doing one-on-ones in a bar, and not one person had a drink.
Hmm.
So, so but I started that when there was 6 people. I didn't have a drink. I drink Coke and I was eating fries. You know? Yeah.
So Gurneet, I mean, you dropped a lot of gold on us. I mean, and I'm sensitive to your time because I know you're a highly sought after man. And you know,
I got time.
well, you
I got
spend
time today.
Real quick, what does a new guy dinner look like?
A great question. So every Thursday night, so I used to do this all the time because obviously we were a smaller office. So I would go with them. So I would take the new guy, I would take the person that hired him, and it would be myself, and maybe one or two other new guys, depending on getting feedback. So what ends up happening is Thursday, with their first day in the field, I start getting feedback from people right away, like in the field, like on their break, like, hey, this guy's really good. He has this and this and story. And I start getting messages in our core group chat. And I'm like, all right, I make a quick instant decision that, all right, this guy's really sharp. Someone really texted me privately, hey, you should listen to a story. We should take this guy out to dinner tonight. We go out to dinner. It's just a lot get to know them. It's asking deeper questions about them and who they are. The opportunity, I talk about 15, 20%, and that's in the end. But I really want them to gain trust in me and my leaders. And I've taught that to the leadership team because in the first week, a lot of times people come back. It's because of the culture and the people and the person that's trained them. It's not normally because of the job itself, right? It's because like the way someone made them feel, right? Obviously they see money and stuff, but they come back, it's because of the person that's training them. So that's what a new start's gonna look like. And we sit there for an hour, nothing crazy. We take them to a pizza or maybe Chili's or something. Nothing fan like I taught my guys to be really frugal with this stuff. It's not like we take them to dinners and stuff like this, crazy stuff. No. You could go to Chili's, we could go to a pizza shop, we can sit down, we could go grab a coffee. It's just them feeling that there's trust in what we do, right? And we do that every single Thursday. And now it's gotten to a point where I have like 8 a.m.s right now in the office, and every single one of them every Thursday is doing their new start dinner. And my thing is in my office, a core leader is an AM before he gets an AM, and an assistant manager acts like an owner before he becomes an owner. That's always my thing. So they're always a step ahead in doing that because that's just the way of my process of development's working. Yeah. And if any of you guys ever want to like, you know, you guys ever want to shadow my one-on-ones, just have one of your guys come on Zoom with me. Just let me speak to them. Someone random that you don't know of. Let me come on Zoom with them and you'll see how I'm able to just bring out information from them. It's nothing crazy at all. It's just the basic questions that we ask, but the way I talk about it. I think maybe it'll be cool for someone to watch. Yeah, so if you guys are interested in doing that, just let me know. I got you guys.
Absolutely.
Let me get
Yeah,
your
that'd be
phone
great.
number. I have a long list of questions that I want to ask. I have 5 questions, but I want to be mindful of your time.
No,
So,
no, no, don't worry. I got time. It's okay.
okay, cool. Well, I want to start with, I mean, it sounds like you're very like systematic and like you have structure and like it sounds like, you're doing everything with an intent, with a purpose, which is what you're talking about. What does your like assistant manager checklist look like? What does your assistant manager training consist of?
Yeah, I can send that. I actually have a complete binder,
Mm-hmm.
and a page. I can send that over to you. But right now, assistant managers in my office literally follow the same routine that I've set up for a rookie owner. So especially if someone's getting, so for example, I have a guy that's going to Chicago and he's getting promoted out in Chicago. He's taking 7 guys with him in the office.
Mm-hmm.
For the last 8 weeks, he's been following the rookie owner routine. And it's a strict like line by line routine, right? Like, hey, this is the time you this is the, because what ends up happening is a lot of times rookie owners get promoted out and they're lost just understanding what they need to do and they act busy when we're not that busy. It's you and 6 other people, right? If you know the basics, and a lot of times they get lost in the administration side of things. And the administration side of things, it's not that hard if it's been taught to you before, right? Gary always told me this one thing: if you're going to teach something to somebody, teach it the right way rather than half-assing it. A lot of times we're like, yeah, I'll teach it to you later. Yeah, don't worry, man. When you get promoted out, yeah, I'll send you a schedule. No, no, no. Those guys, rookie deals, are 24, 25, 26, 27. They've never ran a business. So they'll panic as soon as they feel that there's no structure. So I'll send you over that to you. But in my office right now, the assistant managers do everything. Like they make the schedules, they handle the recruiting side of things, how to distribute interviews, they're on Zoom in the morning, like they're going over the activation reports, they're coming up the game plans for the week. And we do a game planning call every Wednesday, 2 o'clock, with me and my system managers, core guys, and they're running it on what meeting is being what run. Um, just a very, very basic structure, nothing crazy that can't be can be replicated. But what I really do look at, Anil, is a lot of times their emotional intelligence through this process. And I look a lot of times I look at their character, and I look a lot of times I look at the personal decisions they make. Because a lot of times their personal decisions reflect what they do in business. And I've learned that the hard way. Right. But if you can really teach them how to be really put them in the tough situations and throw curveballs at them and see if they can adapt. Like I do a lot of those things. Like I'll walk into the morning where I have to run a main meeting and I'll be like, hey, bud, you're running a main meeting today. Are you prepared? Why aren't you prepared? You should always have a meeting in the back then. What meeting would you run today? Hey, I need you to go have a critical conversation with this somebody. Like all of this is like systematically embedded into their brain because I want them to think and act like me at all times. Now, obviously, not everyone's going to be like me, but I want them to look at the daily vitamins, right? It's who's in the office, who's doing the schedule, who's running what meetings today, what's the content about. All right, how are the activation reports? All right, who do we have to let go? Right, it's Thursday around. All right, who should we fire? Who should we not fire? Just basic questions that you should answer in running a sufficient business.
Right. What steps, like, what do you follow? So when, okay, so I like from getting them as the manager to an owner, what is your kind of strategy promoting them out, right? Like, I mean, it sounds
Okay,
like, I
good.
mean, in the last
Yeah,
12
so
months, seven deals. So like, how do you strategize? What is your, like, what do you look for? What city, what campaign?
yeah, so my minimum wire that I have in the office right now is structured is that we have to hit a $40,000 wire as an office, because if I know that I do a $40,000 wire, I can promote them out with around 10 to $12,000, which keeps me still home base strong. But what ended up happening, I had like the perfect storm in the office. My wires were 80, 90, $100,000. And a lot of times what you can do is that you can ride that, or you can start looking at your deal and be like, look, you got a lot of owners in the building right now. But if you continue to build headcount, you can start promoting them out. And that's my strategy. And my strategy is to promote strong, Anil. It's to give them a white rabbit. It's to give them 2 team builders. right? It's like, and give them two mediocre guys that are doing 800 to $1,000. My goal is not to promote them out weak, because what ends up happening is that when you promote them out strong, there's less work. He's more excited. My guy Halal, his second wire last week was $32,000. His first wire was $21,000. His recruiting started whenever I promote somebody out, I start their recruiting 3 weeks in advance. So the first day they're in the market, they already have new starts because they're feeling excited. What ends up happening, we promote someone out, they're there for a month. There's no recruiting, there's no website, there's no growth. He's struggling. The guy that he takes with them, they start complaining, they miss home, they did this, and now your owner is nagged, and then shit show.
Yeah.
But if you preemptively set those parameters up, right? I start their recruiting 3 weeks before. I have their branding set up 3 weeks before. They exactly know the amount of interviews they're gonna get. We exactly know which individuals they're gonna take from. And let your office know. Be like, look, guys, we had $40,000 wires consistently. Someone's getting promoted in this office, right? Whatever your parameter it is, whatever you feel is gonna be the right for you. And also, you got to make sure your home base is strong, right? And you gotta explain that to people. Like, if there's an assistant manager who's like complaining why I'm not getting promoted out, be like, look, have you replaced yourself? Who's replacing you in this office? So, I have those. So I definitely send a white rabbit, and unless he's not the white rabbit himself,
Right.
right? And there's definitely two team builders that go with him, because that's important. He needs at least 3 people doing interviews, right? And then you have 2 guys that are right middle tier guys. So the guy that's going to Chicago right now,
Mhm.
he's taking around $18,000 to $20,000 wire with him,
Yeah.
and I'm cool with that.
When you were
And
talking about the branding, the website, how much of those are you
Right.
outsourcing, or like what, like, even with the recruiting funnel?
That is outsourced. What do you mean outsourcing? It's like through somebody else?
Yeah. Like, does somebody else do it for you? Like, do you have a social media team that you
Yes.
use?
I have a bomb, yes, that does all that for me. And what I end up doing is that before they get promoted out for 4 weeks, every week they have to sit an hour with them, and they have to learn how to talk to them, coach them. What does the branding look like? What does the website look like? What does the reviews look like? They have to understand it. Because what ends up happening, they get promoted. Gurneet, oh, I'm not getting no interviews. Oh, no one's copping it. I'm like, branding takes time to build. It takes 4 to 6 weeks to build. So that's why I incorporate them before 6, 7 weeks before we start their branding right away. So their branding is being built. So when they actually get to the state, there's already content, there's logo, there's Instagram, there's pages. They already see some interview success. We don't have to do a lot of the labor work, because what I want that guy to do when he gets promoted: recruiting, training, field, spend time with his guys. That's it. Those 4 things. And he has to lead the way. And if he leads the way, he'll build that office quick. And I always tell him, your first philosophy, hey, Frank, how you doing,
Hey,
bud?
Gurneet, you getting my boys
How
right?
you doing?
Get them right. Get them right. If y'all y'all take good notes.
Yeah. So, and the first thing I tell him that, hey, as soon as you promote them out, is to replace those 5, 6 people that you take them with you. That
Yeah.
should be a goal in your brain. All right, how do I replace those? So yeah.
So what steps, like, if you were to recreate so from New York to Chicago, right? So this guy is going out. What steps would you take to, I guess, like, recreate the recruiting operation and replicating what you have in New Jersey to all the way to Chicago? Like, would you be able to walk
If
me
I
through?
went to Chicago, if I went to Chicago right now with 6 people, Anil, I'll be in the field 5 days a week with my guys, because I have to lead my example, and there's only five of them.
Mhm.
I would set the same standards that I have, obviously not to the height that I have right now, but just so, like, for example, right now, my standard to do an interview is $1,000 a week. I genuinely feel right now, if you can make $1,000 a week in our business, something's wrong. The campaign, the money, it's stupid. It's so simple, and there's a lot of money, but I have to lead the way. Whatever I want my office to do. If I'm going to Chicago, I want them to show up to team night. I have to be at team night. I want them to do a dinner. I got to be a dinner. I want them to make a $1,500 a week. I got to do it with them for the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Hmm.
Because if I can do it, then no one can point a finger and say it can be done. That's the way I know the business.
Right. Just
And
lead
I
by.
would keep it,
Mhm.
yeah, and I would keep it simple because if the owner does it, then there's nobody that can point a finger at you and say it can be done.
Hmm.
And like I
And
always say this, if I go down to 0 people right now,
Mhm.
I would, it's me. Who
Yeah.
better knows the business but you?
Hmm.
And a lot of times the field fixes the issues. Like if we owners just get our hands dirty a little bit more, we go out, we inspect, we take the 10-20 minutes daily to spend time with our people. We do the little things. I promise you, the little things change your deal dramatically. It's the
Right.
extra conversation, it's the extra breakfast, the extra dinner, like all those things. That's what I would do.
Gurneet, do you have opportunity meetings that you run that you can send?
Yeah, I can send them to you. No problem, Gabriel. If you can just you have my number?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, just text me your email. I'll send them over to you.
Can I get your number, Gurneet?
Yeah, 646
Mm-hmm.
427
Mm-hmm.
7422. You know, a lot of my leaders' meetings comes from Jamie Epp's video YouTube channel.
So where I get all
I
my
just
content.
copy those and I send them to like the leaders every single Sunday. He posts them, so I just send them to the leaders every single Sunday.
That's funny.
I'm like, hey, you guys need content. Here it is.
Well, now I'm gonna cut and paste content from this call and I'm gonna throw it up there on a pep huddle. How does that sound, Gurneet?
Yeah.
Gurneet, one more time. I thought I had your number. I guess I don't. What was
Yeah,
it?
646 427 7422.
Awesome.
Yeah, Gurneet, I really appreciate you taking the time, and I still do want to do that, get you and Brennan on a call and just sort of, talk this through. It is interesting. It like both strategies have been working. Like he doesn't have like his ratio, right? If he hires 10 people in a month, probably even less. He hires probably, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they all stick around and they do well.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, how do you do that? I mean, I'm not that good. I mean, I have a fallout ratio. I mean, I'm lucky if I'm batting, 33%, of my
Well,
new
I'm
hires that
very
become leaders.
well. I'm excited to see because Len's eye just switched to my way of doing things. So I want to see how that works out.
Hmm.
So I'm curious to see because we've been having a lot of conversations with them. I'll just try to make the business as replicatable as possible. Where I don't want like, and the way Brendan does is good. The whole organization. A lot of people do it that way. But I'm like, how many people I'm going to promote are going to be Gurneet or are going to be somebody like Brennan. So I was like, all right, how do I replicate a system where the law of averages just kick in for them defaultly?
Right.
And for me, that's the way I thought about it. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's good stuff, man. Thanks for being a stud, and congratulations breaking a new record, 11 weeks to $1 million. I mean, that's remarkable.
Thank you guys. Yeah, I'd hate the spotlight like that. I'm not one of those guys. But look, if any of you guys need me to run a call for you guys, feel free. Let me know. I'm more than welcome. I love spending time with newer reps and talking to them. Those are the drive of our business. So any help you guys need from me, I'm here for you guys. Thank you so much, Jamie,
Thank
for
you,
having me on the
Gurneet.
call.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Once
so
again.
Gurneet.
much.
We
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Gurneet.
no, my pleasure, guys. Thank you, guys.
We
Thank you.
appreciate you. Have a great rest of your
Thank
week.
you. Thank you.